take it forward from there. James, please.
So we got the agents, we worked with the agent, got agreement to a condition that might address members' concerns, but we then have realised that the legal officer's made a very important point as to why the condition might work. So what we were looking at was condition 4, because what's important about that is it involves consultation with Metropolitan Police Crime Prevention and Design Advisor. So what we were just discussing is whether that could effectively be enhance that condition to in such a way that it would address members' concerns. But the difficulty we're going to have is that if the Met Police have concerns, that the permission would be allowing a 24-hour use, and that particular issue is slightly vexing myself and the legal officer, and would I think I know that the legal officer's advice is that members defer it, and I think I'd be minded not to argue with the legal advisor.
On that basis, I almost certainly would have asked for the revised condition and details, given members' strong concerns, to come back to committee anyway, because I think it's one that should be seen to be done in publicly. Therefore, would somebody, I think Councillor Oswald was about to propose deferral anyway.
I did. I proposed deferral, Chairman.
And I think we'll let Councillor Brightman second it, as it was her. She started this discussion. All those in favour of deferral, please clearly show. Thank you. Okay. I move to... I'll be slightly nice to the lady in the audience who's waiting on number 11. So I'll do 11 before 10, because 11 is much easier than 10. Just to make life... Well, 11 is, I think, pretty straightforward, whereas 10 needs a bit of thinking about. So, sorry, Mandip, for messing your order up.
That's okay, thank you, Chair. Item 11 is Prologis Park, West London. This application was before members, I believe, in June this year, so not that long ago. That was the amendment to the main planning permission. We're now looking at the reserve matters for the last 2 remaining industrial units. The reserve matters are looking at layout, scale, appearance and landscaping for what is otherwise known as Phase 2 of Prologis Park West. Prologis secured a hybrid planning permission back in 2015 in December, and that was for 4 industrial units. So if this is the main site, we had units 1, 2, 3 and 4, probably not in that order. So we're now looking at the reserve matters for just units 3 and 4. Units 1 and 2 have actually been built, and I believe may even be occupied, and units 3 and 4 is proposed to be taken by the same occupier, which is encouraging for business development in the borough. So units 3 and 4 take a very similar format to units 1 and 2. I think primarily what we want to see is probably the photos of units 1 and 2, so we know what units 3 and 4 will look like when they're built. So units 1 and 2 have been built on the right, and units 3 and 4 are coming forward now. I'll take you through to some photographs of the finished article. So here it's on site. The new access road into the site has also been completed. Tree planting has been completed, so it's looking like a very it will be a mature environment. There are also significant improvements along the canal in terms of towpath improvements. The reserve matters are in accordance with the main outline planning permission. The proposals are satisfactory in terms of appearance and landscaping, and the application is accordingly recommended for approval.
Anyone got any issues, or do you want to take me forward?
I've no issues. Very pleased to see the regeneration of this area. I'm most welcome, and I'm happy to move officer's recommendations.
Have you got a query, Councillor Duncan? Sir?
Could I just ask a question about this? I think there was some restriction on them being data centres before, because the one that's sort of nearing completion now, I think, is a data centre, and there are issues about that relating to, well, all kinds of matters, carbon usage and footprint and energy and all the rest of it. And also the footpath that was put in at the side of this, which was part of this development, which actually goes from Horton Road down to the improved canal frontage. I think it runs at the side of the unit. And if you look at that, I don't think it's on a surface that you can actually push a wheelchair along or a pram or pushchair with any ease. If that could just be checked out, please, and if necessary, that be brought to the attention of these developers, because while they're there and doing all this work on site, if that needs to be changed, I would like to see that done. It's a shame to finally have that footpath put in and the improved canal frontage for people to enjoy, and only restricted to certain users.
On the data centre, have we already dealt with that?
So in June, we
approved
allowed
it. I
the
thought we
building
did.
the restriction to be lifted.
Yeah,
Is that for all of them?
Yes.
I thought we had. So this is just the appearance and landscaping.
I thought we'd allowed that on the one which is now,
no, it appears.
nearing
no.
completion, but I didn't know we'd allowed it on all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's fine. They've got to go somewhere. I mean,
Yeah. And it's an
Very
industrial
happy.
use that or
Yeah,
business
very
use
happy
and it's
that
working.
there. Yeah.
Are you happy to move? You've moved. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Morse. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's approved. I move back to the last item of the night, which is item 10, and remind you that you need to look at the additional hard copy plans, not your plan packs. Otherwise, you'll get very confused.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 10 is Fanuc House, 1 Station Approach. Planning permission for this application site, which is located quite close to the station, highlighted in red here, was granted for the demolition of the existing office building and the redevelopment of the site to provide a 4-storey building with basement car parking comprising of 40 residential units. The principle of the development to provide 4-storey building has already been established by virtue of the extant consent. The current application with us for consideration is for minor material amendments to the consented scheme. I would like you to take note of the addendum, which clarifies some of the changes. So one of the changes proposed is to create a ramp access into the lower ground floor car park. The approved scheme had a car lift, and I'll take you through those plans. We're also now providing, this proposal proposes 29 car parking spaces instead of 31. There are minor alterations to the mix of the units. Now, the 1, 2, and the 3-bed units which are proposed within the unit are not changing. The 2-bed units change from 2-bed 4-person to 2-bed 3-person units, and that's primarily so that we can ensure that the accessible units, of which there are 4, can actually be delivered as M43 compliant. Under the approved plans, they were marginally too small, hence the reason that there just need to be a slight reconfiguration of some of the 2 beds. So I take you through the changes now. This is the site layout plan. So the landscaping along the rear is maintained, and that's the shared amenity space. The access point is retained. The primary change, I think it's easier to use the comparison proposals that I have. So this is the proposed lower ground floor. But I have done some comparisons for you. So the upper plan is the consented scheme, and the lower plan is the proposed layout. So the car lift, as approved, was located here, and it's now being altered to provide ramp access down to the car park. The approved plans also had parking layout for wheelchair accessible units at ground floor level. The proposal is to move them down into the basement, so into these 4 positions I'm highlighting here, and there are 2 lifts to serve this unit. In order to understand the reason for this change, we have this diagram. So under the consented scheme, whilst the disabled spaces were functional, it required disabled users to exit their vehicles once they were parked on the site, leave the site, walk round on the public footpath in order to access their units. Now, obviously, on reflection, that's not the most ideal solution, hence the reason for the proposal to amend the scheme. Previously, there was a car lift, so now we have an access ramp which would, sorry, let me go back a step. The access ramp allows vehicles to come down. The disabled parking spaces are within good proximity to the lifts, which allows you to get to ground floor level and then get to your residential unit. There were concerns raised about the potential that the lifts might break down, and that has been addressed in the addendum report in order to ensure that there is adequate provision for just about acceptable gradient levels should the lifts break down, that they could, or users, sorry about that, users could actually go up the ramp in order to exit the site. The Council's Access Officer considers the proposals to improve the accessibility of the consented scheme. The proposed changes are therefore considered to be an improvement and therefore acceptable. So that's in relation to not just the car parking layout, but also the M43 compliant units, which are now of an appropriate size. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval, subject to a deed of variation to secure consent against the original permission. Thank you.
Anybody want to start on this one? So we're looking at the basement, the ramp, and the relocation of the car parking spaces, in essence, and the other effect is that the M43 unit is now, they're now properly sized. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, it seems to me that the changes here are being promoted on the basis of improvement for outcomes for the residents and not just to deliver profitability. And that, for me, is quite a good thing. We are going to end up with improvement in accessibility. How we miss that circuitous route for the disabled, I'm kicking myself on that. We need to take a little bit more care in my preparation to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I do think that this moves us forward. The lost 2 parking spaces, whilst regretted, I don't think is grounds for refusal, particularly with the station immediately adjacent to it. So, all things being equal, I actually think this is an improvement, and I'm happy to move officer's recommendation.
Councillor Yarrow.
It's only a technical question. What is the exact gradient?
It's in the addendum. One in 7. 1 in 7.
1 in 7.
Yeah, which is why the planning officer said just about acceptable. I think the highways officer says considered borderline. Well, apparently one. Go on.
Chair, if I may, you can in certain cases go down to 1 to 7, 1 to 8, but it would have been better, obviously, to have an improved gradient. However, given the constraints of the site, it's just physically impossible to do so. And what helps the situation is that you have the 2 lift facilities. So it's a very unlikely event that 2 lifts would go down. If it was just a single lift, then clearly, yeah. So there's always the fallback position for the second lift if it does fail. So.
Councillor Oswald.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, it's certainly an improvement, but I'm still a bit concerned about the disabled access. It wasn't very well thought out, and it was remiss of us because we passed this before, didn't we? So it's probably our fault. It's an improvement, but I don't think it's too wonderful.
I don't think it's wonderful, but we obviously got to remember we have a consented scheme sitting on the table, and that's part of the issue. I think it's better. James?
Regarding the planning history, I can remember this was deferred when it was originally dealt with. There was problems with plan accuracy. It wasn't made easy for officers or members to deal with.
Tricky one, yeah.
Chairman, there was air quality issues, and we wanted the balconies turned around the other way. Councillor Duncan raised all that, and there was quite a bit of debate. It was a difficult one when it first came in, and it got improved by the second time by the look of it, and it's now had a further improvement, which makes it it is what it is. Did somebody propose me, unless anyone's got any other issues? Councillor Morse?
Yes, I accept that this is, in my opinion, a minor improvement, but it is an improvement, so I will propose it.
You say? Oh, sorry, in that case, if you propose, I'll take a seconder from Councillor Morse, so that's fine. No, I had forgotten because we drifted on. All those in favour of approval, please show.
I'm not voting for this, because if you remember last time, I wouldn't vote for it.
No, so you're abstaining or you're voting against? Right, okay, but that was still approved. Okay, thank you very much indeed for dealing with that lot at 7 o'clock. For those doing the north, you've now got a half hour's breather.